Alright, good morning everyone. Welcome to the stream. We're exclusively on YouTube right now because Restream, which I've been using to stream to both YouTube and Twitch, has decided to crap out. It's bad, dropping frames left and right. So that's why we're running about an hour late now. But we're here in Guatemala. We got the Maya Island Air Cessna 208B Grand Caravan sitting here in general aviation. We can see the other planes on the other side. The sun has just creeped up enough because that terminal was in shadow just a second ago. And we're going to be doing World Tour Flight 182, a little bit different here in a smaller plane. We have done some smaller flights, but this one's going to be about a 2-hour flight. We're actually flying between countries, not just to a city or anything. In the Cessna 208B. Make sure my audio's right here. Should be. Yeah, there we go. It keeps getting, the volume keeps getting turned down on my mic. So, if that's a little too loud, I just gotta hear it. I gotta listen to it back, but... so, a few changes there. Yeah, we don't have the... just on YouTube here, so... hopefully you guys start showing up. Air Public, yep. Alright, so we're gonna get the plane started. We're gonna see if I can do this. I need to get a FSU IPC started. Pull in the SimBrief flight plan. Make sure I have stuff on. Ready to go. Boom. Parts list. Or okay. So let's get inside the plane. Let's try to start this up. Not 100% sure how to do this. I'm just going to go with this checklist that the plane comes with. Preflight inspection. Make sure the fuel selectors are both on. Turn that on. See if it's better. On, and then we go before starting engines. Ignition selectors are set to normal. Power lever is idle. It'll be a little different because I don't have a whole little thing like this to deal with the prop and all that stuff, so. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't have. I wonder if I could switch to... I have actually, I think if I switch to the, I don't know how much it's going to screw things up, but I think if I go to these, my Boeing ones, that might... Okay, that's the fuel. Okay, it doesn't look like anything's... That's just kind of messing with it. It's just going back and forth. Okay, so I don't really have anything set up. Because I usually just fly the Airbus and the Boeing. So that works. Prop RPM lever. We want this set to max. That's difficult. Battery switch on. Beacon on. Turn off the flashlight. Avionics switch number 1 on. Let's go. Fuel boost on. Starter on. Turn this on. How do I turn these screens on? There's the screen. Okay, so it's aligning. Field condition lever in low. Oh, the plane's starting. I don't want to really start it up though. Okay, so can I... I don't want to burn the fuel. Let's bring that down. There we go. Sounds like it's going up. I just want the avionics on because I want to set up the our flight plan first. I don't know what these mean. Oh, there we go. Turn down that music. It's a little loud. I want to be able to hear the plane. Know when it's on and when it's not on. Alright, we're going to jump in. And I'm going to use this screen. See what our different... There we go. We're going to do a flight plan. I think this is how we do it. Let's see if we can... Origin. Twitch isn't working. Yeah, something's broken. XLast. That's why I'm over here on YouTube. Restream is just not pumping it out. So basically it was... I think it probably was working okay on Twitch. Well, no, even on Twitch it would just kind of drop every once in a while. It was dropping like 25% of the frames at least. So I'm going to try to set up... I can never figure this out. How do I, push? I am on... I can switch between these. How do I actually select? Oh, there we go. Okay, origin. We are coming out of... Oh, I like how it has a little map there. Kind of gives us a clue. Let's see. So, Mike, Golf. Golf. Tango. Enter. Runway. What runway do we got? Well, let's see what runway they'll give us here. Is this still not going to work? Oh, here we go. Park straight out.
Aurora ground, MYLAND 1010.
Yep, using the in-game ATC for this because I think ATC HUD or FS HUD ATC does not work for GFR really.
Contact tower on 118.1 when ready.
Alright, runway 2. What's our flight plan guy? Yep, runway 2. Alright, runway 2, acknowledge.
Taxiing, hold short runway 02.
So I'm using AIG traffic injection, so they'll talk on this too, hopefully they'll sound right. We are MyLand 1010, we are Maya Island Air. We'll jump outside once I get this in here. So how do I... There we go. Hit enter. There it is. Okay, enter. Good. Okay, en route. Okay, so I was thinking we had to do it right next to en route. Now we can pick our... Okay, there we go. So our first waypoint... I'll bring up flight plan. Over a little bit like that. Oh. Flight plan, where are you? There you are. Okay, flight plan, we have, get in here. What is this? Tickus, looks like. Tango. India. Kilo. India. And Sierra. I like how it kind of just shows you where it is, too. Right there, it shows us in Guatemala. Enter. Right, in this. Is pressure changing over there? What's going on there? Alright, direct to Nelma. Lima. Mike. There it is, Nelma. This is in Belize. That's where we want to go. Enter. And that's it. Then we go to our destination. Destination is Mike. Zulu. So let's go back here. Zulu. Bravo. And we'll find it. There it is, Zulu. Belize City, Philip S.W. Goldson International. Enter. Good. Set runway. We're going to come runway 25. Enter, enter. Okay, and then I think we can do... Awesome, it even has like the waypoint weather, all that. That's really cool. I've never flown, like done this. Now, I think procedure we can select. Yep, departure. So enter. And we're going to be taking Tickus North. Tickus N. Here, Tickus. This is actually a pretty robust system. I never used... what is this, Garmin? I've never really used these. I think the last time I really got into the system itself was back in X-Plane. It's kind of fun to do it. A little bit more than actually the FMS in some ways. So, Tickus, runway. What am I doing here? Is there like a... Okay, that's just the sequence. Okay, I don't need to do anything on that. Gotta go down here. Load. Enter. Awesome. Okay, so we got all this extra stuff now. Whoops, whoops. I want to go down. And I want to select the approach. Going to be here, enter. Actually, I want to select arrival. How do I go back? I'll go back. Clear. Select arrival is what we want. Arrival, enter. We're coming runway 25. Nelma 1 Bravo. Enter. There's a sequence. Not as long as the flyout. Enter. Okay, I don't know how to like go through this. Up, down. Last thing is I want to go is figure out. Well, we don't need to do that right now. We'll set the arrival once we know what our arrival is. Back to menu, procedure, flight plan. Okay, I think that's what we want. Looks good. Put away the chart. Let's see, XS Kiwi, I think Santorini is the first airport I'm flying to with the A320 that has neither ILS nor localizer. Interesting. So are you gonna, is it RNAV or something? I've had a few of my last flights have been RNAV, our approaches have been RNAV, but I've put the ILS on so we still have the, we can take in the ILS or at least follow the glide slope. Santorini, is that, that's Greece, right? Okay. So I think we are set there. We have the passengers on board. Well, let's get PAC-X going. I've never tried PAC-X with smaller plane like this. We have 7 passengers. See what it does. Trying to get my lighting here. Nav light can be on. Beacon's already on. Turn those off now. My landing lights on. No smoking. Seatbelt. Cabin light. let's see how this goes. That's me in the A320 cabin. We don't have a smaller Cessna or anything. I was gonna say, we really shouldn't have any crew talking because it's just us and the passengers. So we're just gonna hear them putting their seatbelts on. VOR, NDBB, or RNAV. VOR. Yeah, VOR is a good one to go. I mean, I don't understand RNAV. I think RNAV is just GPS. I don't know the technical things, but RNAV just looks like you're following the GPS. You just follow the GPS into the runway, which is typical. I mean, you're almost every flight you're doing anyway. The computer, it's all the points are in there. VOR, you get to kind of bounce off that radio signal, but again, in the bigger planes, it just, you have the GPS and everything doing that. Okay. Anyway, let's get going here. Checklist. Before starting engine. Let's make sure these are right. Normal. Power lever idle. Yes. Prop lever is max RPM. Starting engine, battery switch. Let's double check all this. Battery switch on. Beacon light is on. Avionics 1 is on. Fuel boost on. Starter. There we go. Fuel condition, low idle. Okay. Those are the wing flaps, right? There's low idle. These are the flaps. Now, when do I turn the starter off? Because oh yeah, I think we're fine. We have the fuel. Fuel boost normal. Avionics 2 is already on. Where's that propel? Oh, there it is. I think I see it. Okay, we have no alerts. This is the first time I've ever started one of these planes with no alerts. We'll go to starter off. Fuel boost normal. Parking brake is set. Right before takeoff. Okay. We know how to taxi, do all that good stuff. Let's get our clearance and get to the runway and let's get out of here. Oh, we already got the clearance. Never mind. Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's depending on the approach and if there isn't depending on what there is, as far as the GPS or having you come in, you get the, sometimes you just hand fly, and I think we kind of forget. I have to realize sometimes that it's like, well, the point of the ILS, or the point of the VOR, all that's just to get you in line with the runway. ILS is a little bit more, it can give you the glide slope and everything, but it's like as soon as you see the runway, you should be able to land on the runway. You should be able to figure out how to get to it if you're worth your salt. Okay, what are we doing? I'm going, oh, I want to figure out where runway 2 is. I want to look at my chart. That's what I'm doing. Here we are. Alright, runway 2 is on the complete opposite end of the airport. Awesome. So I'm going to taxi. Oh, yeah. Where should we go? Kind of like at the military ramp, actually. General aviation, actually, supposed to be. Okay, I think we'll go. Parking brake. This. Oh, you gotta give it a little bit of power, don't we? Is there a taxiway across? There is. Taxi over there. What I really need to do is I need to set up a profile for my smaller planes because my rudder pedals are set up so sensitive. Set up for the bigger planes. Smaller plane, it's like barely have to move it and it swings the plane completely to the left, completely to the right. Awesome! Thor's finally out of Europe after this flight. Yeah, you kind of, once you've been flying in the same continent for a while, you start longing to get over to a different one. And then you sort of miss it. You're like, oh man, I can't believe how fast I zipped through that, even though it took probably months.
Aurora ground, American 1456 requesting
I'm already surprised how far we've gone on this tour. That we're almost, I feel like we're almost done with the Americas, but we're really not. We got a lot of flights to go. We're on flight 182, I think. Jump over here on my other screen, live stream, world tour. Let's see, we're not getting out of, we're not technically getting out of the Americas until flight 228. So we still got 46 flights here in the Americas. Oh. We'll get to properly explore a little bit, I think. Right? There you go. Rename all those lines. Yeah, I'm driving myself nuts right now, making, fooling around in Adobe After Effects. But I figure eventually if I can develop my skills at a certain point, I can, make some money doing that. I don't know.
Aurora ground, American 1456
That'd be nice, at least. I'm going to be spending hours on end doing stuff to actually be doing it for something.
Aurora ground, United 1901 requesting the end of
We
pushback.
really don't need to go all the way down to the end, so we're going to just come in right.
United 1901 request to end pushback received.
ATC won't recognize that, I don't think.
Aurora ground, United 1901 with Alpha ready to taxi.
Got lights in the wrong place.
United 1901 taxi to and hold short of runway 02.
Alright, tune to the tower.
Runway 20 Alpha.
Nothing really changed.
Contact tower on 118.1 when ready.
Ah. Well, why'd you split it in two? Why didn't you just do the 5-hour flight or whatever? Time issues?
Aurora Tower, MYLAND 1010, ready for departing straight out at runway 02.
MYLAND 1010 QNH 30.09er at 4. Departing straight out approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 02.
Get that Q&H actually. There we go. Acknowledge.
Cleared for takeoff runway 02, MYLAND 1010.
Yeah, that's been a problem. It's kind of on and off. I've had that, and then I don't think I've had it lately. Alright, so let's continue onto the runway. guess. Yeah, that's kind of why I stick to like the shorter flights. There will be some long ones just out of necessity, but I see no reason to really go out of my way to plan longer flights because, especially if I'm going to be streaming and I'm just going to be sitting here. I used to do longer flights because then I could step away, do other things, but if I'm stepping away too much in the stream, it's like, well, where is he? Why isn't he here? Yeah, I wonder how he go. Did I just go all the flaps? I want to go all the flaps. That's interesting. I guess, like, button, it's just flaps up or flaps down. Can't I have, like, different... Well, yeah, let's go there. Wait. Okay, let's do that. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I know people do it, and it's kind of funny, though. It's just sometimes like, well, where is he? Why aren't you here? Why aren't you here? It's like, I don't know, because I'm doing a 12-hour flight. I'm not going to sit right in front of the computer. I mean, if there were 300 people in there and there was an active chat going on, you know, and even then, it's like you guys can chat with each other. That's some of these bigger streamers. It's like, you know, you go on the stream and no one's there except for all the people watching. Let's get this thing taken off. We got a Alpha Indy group traffic moving around. As I said, I'm kind of getting a little soured on the FS HUD ATC. I would say it's a takeoff at 150. Well, we're taking off anyway. I didn't even pull back; it just takes off. What does this have us cruising at? Cruising at 8,000 feet, 9,000 after GT 722. Gonna be right there, so we're gonna go to 9,000. I'll be on localizer. How do I switch? How do I switch that? I always forget. How do I switch to follow nav, follow FMS, follow whatever? There it is. Oh, and I didn't set my arrival airport, so ATC is going to be basically useless now, which is not a big deal, but not gonna be able to.
MYLAND 1010, leaving my airspace frequency change approved.
They'll talk to me, but they don't know where I'm going, actually. I'm so used to using the Airbus and the PMDG now that I don't bother setting the arrival. Hey, Mika! Six screens.
Aurora Tower American 1456 at runway 02 ready for departure.
I know, that makes me jealous. Who is that? What Twitch is that? I'd like to see who that is. To see. I know, I see some of these streams, I'm like, why do they have I mean, there's hundreds of people watching, and there's no one there. They're doing nothing really special that I can see. Alright, flying by hand right now. Got a little bit of a texture problem on the livery. I'll put the autopilot on for a second. And hopefully it follows the line.
MYLAND 1010, did you copy?
I don't know. What did you want me to do?
Aurora Tower, MYLAND 1010 frequency change.
I just want to put on. I want to get on the autopilot so I can take some nice outside views. Amazing. This is really cool, like how the cities are all kind of just on these hills. I don't come from a city like that. I come from, you know, Milwaukee. We're pretty flat. We do have hills, but not like that, where you build it, you know, plateau and then just a gulch basically or whatever. Nice morning takeoff. I actually I changed the pilots so that it will kind of put the appropriate outfits for them for the plane. So obviously for flying in a commercial airliner, we'll have the... Kind of just puts random pilots too now. Just have random pilots. That's why I'm a woman, I guess. But it's kind of getting weird seeing wearing the full uniform when we're flying in. And maybe they do fly in a uniform on my island, I don't know. But in these smaller planes, it's kind of weird to do that. What's going on with you?
Aurora approach MYLAND 1010 is type Cessna Caravan 11 miles north of Aurora, 7,700 feet. Request
How do I set
following.
my altitude?
MYLAND 1010 Aurora approach. Squawk 4047.
Get up to 9,000. Get up there.
MYLAND 1010.
Alright, I went away from your screen here. Let's see. Tattoo Man. Watch, it's probably got like 100 people watching. 17, okay. Be kind of annoyed otherwise.
MYLAND 1010, did you copy?
No, I didn't. Because I'm doing other things. Like now squawk code 4047.
MYLAND 1010.
Oh, it automatically did it. There it is.
4 miles north of Aurora, 8,000 feet. QNH tree 0.09er.
Hopefully our flight plan doesn't run us into a mountain. Holy cow, he does have 6 screens.
MYLAND 1010, did you copy?
Roger, MYLAND 1010. Aurora approach, MYLAND 101015
Oh, it
miles
does.
north of
Okay.
Aurora.
I didn't put in the
IFR to
final,
Belize,
so
ready to
okay,
copy.
I can request it to Belize.
MYLAND 1010
It must go off of what you
is
put in
cleared
the
to Belize
flight
Airport
computer, I
6
guess?
miles. Squawk 4047.
Alright, cool. There we go, we got our IFR clearance.
MYLAND 1010 cleared to Belize Airport.
At least we know that they know we're going there now, I guess.
Squawk 4047.
Belize Airport, just Belize Airport, I guess.
MYLAND
Okay.
1010, read back correct. Radar contact.
Now they're gonna
8,300
turn
feet.
left, turn right.
QNH tree 0.0.
Actually, that's
Turn
right.
left, heading
Heading to
030,
030.
navigation
Climb and
line,
maintain
13,000
13,000. No, we're going 9,000.
Turn left heading 030, proceed on course climb and maintain 13,000
Flight plan says
feet,
9,000. We're gonna go 9,000. That's what the fuel is. We don't want to go too high and
Island 1010 contact
have
Central
issues.
America Center on 123.9er. Good day.
123.9er, MYLAND 1010.
I'm gonna turn on the assist here. I haven't used this in so long because I haven't used the ATC in so long.
Central America Center, MYLAND 1010, is passing 8,600 feet, climbing 13,000 feet.
MYLAND 1010 Central America Center QNH 30.08. Continue to GT 722 as planned. MYLAND 1010 traffic is 7 o'clock 4 miles at 10,100 feet Boeing 737. Report them in sight.
MYLAND 1010 traffic in sight.
Let's see, tattoo man. 17,678 followers. I don't know how you do it. I just don't know how guys do it. How they get all these followers, how they get these sponsors, how they get all that stuff. It's just, like, what do you gotta do? I don't know. What do you gotta do? And then how, you know, it's like obviously they're making a decent amount of money from Twitch or something to be able to afford all the monitors and stuff. I can't afford this stuff. I can't. I'm at the point where, no. Owns a virtual airline too. See, that's where it is. I guess I've slotted myself in now at this point. When I was over in China, I had the time. I probably could have done more things, more crazy stuff like that. I used to, when I was younger, be able to do a lot more. You get older, you have a kid, you get married, you have a kid, and now I'm working a 60-hour-a-week job. What are you gonna do? And it gets really hard to branch out into anything else once you're in that. Like even right now, like my mom's school she works for, they're going to be calling it's a religious school. And they're calling a history teacher, which history is my major. I have teaching experience, but it was teaching little kids English in China, which is a little bit different, I think, than teaching history to high school kids. But and it's like when I was like, oh, you should go sign up for some teaching classes at the college so you can be considered for the job. And I'm like, when am I going to do that? When am I going to have time to do that? I can't really cut back too much on my hours at work to do that, because then it's going to be a little harder to pay the bills, and then to go into teaching where I guess for what I'd be getting paid and the hours I'd be working, or at least on paper what I'd be working, because you still, teacher, it's not an hourly gig always, but you do get the summers off. I don't get the summers off. I have to work 60. Kind of getting lower on what I'm making of money, and got to figure out the budget. So I don't know.
1010 traffic is 9 o'clock 4 miles at 6,600 feet Boeing 737. Report them in sight.
MYLAND 1010 have the Boeing 737 in sight.
How do I scroll down on this?
Alpha 108 have the traffic.
At the end of
MYLAND 1010, please expedite your climb 13,000 feet.
I suppose if you're a tattooist, you can make some good money in that, especially if you own it. If you're not just one of the artists at a place. But I don't know how much they make, but I'm assuming if you're running a tattoo business, which by the time you're 62, I would guess you are, you have employees of your own, I probably make some pretty good bucks. And then flying since he's 15.
MYLAND 1010, please expedite your climb 13,000 feet.
I It just seems I've never been able to find that niche where I can just take off. I mean, I do. I guess I don't put enough time into anything, I suppose, or feel guilty about putting time into things. You gotta put some serious time into whatever you're gonna do to make it a successful side hustle or successful just the main thing you're gonna do. And I guess I just don't get that support. I guess I just don't get the support from people around me. Maybe, I don't know.
Island 1010, please expedite your climb 13,000 feet.
Oh, I wanted to tell them we're not climbing up there. Want to go? They want us to. No, we want to go.
Central America Center, MYLAND 1010. Request 13,000 feet.
Why am I requesting 13,000? Well, they want us to go up like
Island
17,000.
1010
What the heck?
maintain 13,000 feet.
Climb and maintain 13,000 feet, MYLAND 1010.
Dealing with the in-game ATC.
Central America
9,000,
Center,
that's what I
MYLAND
want. Okay.
1010. Request 9,000 feet.
Island 1010 climb and maintain.
But yeah, this is gonna be a pretty fun flight, even if I just stay on the. I'm not gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna fly how much if I
Climb
can,
and
but
maintain 9,000 feet, MYLAND 1010.
yeah, just because we're so low, we can actually see things a little bit better. Kind of a VFR flight on the World Tour flight. You get to see the beautiful Bijan Hibachi Four Season trees. Real game changer. I think Rex also has Four Season trees, which I think run a little bit more automatic, a little bit more dynamic. But you know what we could do? Actually, take our flaps up, and then we'll be able to get more speed. There we go. That fixes that. Forgot to turn my bring the flaps up. Now, hopefully we don't run out of fuel. That's what I mean. It's such a big change, and that's all this stuff. It's like I just don't know how people do it. Where, especially, I mean, I've already like how many big changes can I do? You know, I went from college over to China, and that was a big change. Did that for 8 years. Now I'm back over. Now I'm over here. Big change into trucking, and kind of just living the American grind. And. It's like, what do I want to change to next, right? What thing do I have to learn and change to next? And obviously, going into teaching would be more stable, or there'd be slightly more job security in that than there is in the job I have right now, because who knows what's going to happen with the brewery? They're having labor dispute right now, and Molson Coors, who owns the brewery, who owns Miller, Coors, all that, they've got a number of other breweries under their belt. Trenton, Ohio, Fort Worth, Texas, Albany, Georgia, out in the Blue Ridge, where is it, Elkton, Virginia. Those are just the ones I've been to, and those all have room to expand. They're efficient. The design of them, they're compact. Like, everything is in one building. It's all attached. Whereas the brewery here, it's an old. I mean, it's expanded piecemeal over the years, over the last 150 years or whatever, since Miller was founded. And old buildings spread out over this large campus that's kind of tucked in the valley. And there's no room to expand. No more room for parking, no more room for, just expanding operations here. And then you have labor dispute, and I don't think Molson Coors really cares if these workers want to walk out and go on strike, because what they'll do is they'll bring in people from the other breweries, keep this place limping along, and then they'll drop it. They'll close it and move operations elsewhere because there's no future in this brewery. And so, yeah, maybe I really need to consider looking at the teaching thing, but it's just so overwhelming to, spend the money on college classes on something. And it's like, what do I really want to do? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out what I really want to do when I grow up. Yep, and that's the big thing with going into doing flight school. I would love, I've just gotten bit by the bug of flying now, and you can make a pretty, and then you get to kind of travel for free, right? In a sense, I mean, you're not going to see all the sites all the time, but you're traveling to a certain extent, and that'd be so fun. But yeah, the lifestyle change, just for the learning component of it. And that's the big one, because at least when you're finally in the career, when you're finally in the, again, quote unquote grind of whatever it is, you've got your steady income or whatever, you can figure out your income. When you're learning, you're in flight school, it's just money going out, and then you're trying to make ends meet with whatever you can do in the meantime. And I've read about, as you're going through the levels, you get your flight instructor license, and then you have to instruct other people, which there's not a ton of money in. And so you got that stress of the money side. You're trying to train other people, and you're trying to build up hours, and it's just a grind. And definitely not in the place to do that right now. Beautiful. This is actually the way I think I'm gonna keep doing. Obviously, I'm gonna keep doing my world tour with the airliners, but at some point, and maybe even just starting now, I don't know. Maybe I'll start doing a world tour, flying in the Cessna 208 or something, because this is just awesome. Fly at a lower level, because you get to actually get involved with these clouds. If we were flying at 36,000 feet, we'd just be looking down and we'd just see some clouds over these hills. But we get to see the hills, we get to see the clouds. Beautiful. Get to experience Microsoft Flight Simulator in all its glory. Hey Sasha, I'm doing alright. We had a few issues coming in, and I guess this isn't gonna, I don't know what's going on, why we're not getting a lot of views. A lot of people jumping in today. And that's the whole thing too. It's like I'm trying to do the streaming thing, and I guess I just have to look at it as like, just have fun doing it. You're gonna be flying, you wanna share it. I kind of started streaming in the first place just to I wanted to record videos of all my flights, but recording the video and then editing it and doing all that just took too much time, and I'm like, okay, I'll just live stream it. Maybe people will watch. I'm not even going back and watching my old flights, really. I take the screenshots, and that's what I look at. But I kind of wanted to, I'm like, well, this is a new medium, why not? We'll see what happens. Man, this is... I really do. I'm really going to consider figuring out how to do this. But yeah, I think I'm gonna do start setting up a world tour via the lower level plane like this. Again, there's not enough hours in the day to do all the flying. I mean, I know there's quite a few people doing world tours like this. I mean, there's people doing world tours of every kind. I think my concept of world tour is the one people aren't doing. I haven't seen anyone else doing a tour where they're just flying into every country. I've seen people doing the world tours where they're just going around the world. They're kind of going around the world. Maybe they're going up and down the coasts, but they're not hitting every single country. Like Shoney over there on Twitch, Shoney Gaming, he was doing low level. I think it was in the Cessna 172. So not in the 208, but in the 102, and flying about usually 5,000 feet, and and flying to points of interest too on the world tour, going, flying to, okay, we're gonna fly to this city, and we're gonna fly past, flying into Cairo, flying past the pyramids. Whereas when I flew into Cairo, I don't even think we saw the pyramids. I don't know, because it was a commercial flight. We see what we see. So maybe I'll start working kind of I don't know, you wouldn't really call it a VFR, because VFR is really the flight rules. You can do an IFR in these planes, I think. But doing like lower level like this is the way. I'm glad this is the flight that came up for this. And now I kind of almost want to do all my flights like this, but I do like flying the airliners as well. Let's see, XSQ town had a brewery, but it's closed quite some time. The normal thing for Germany, though, that most towns had a brewery. Yep. Well, that's the thing. It's like we had Milwaukee used to have so many breweries. I mean, we used to have the largest, I think the 3 largest beers in the world. I mean, just the widely spread ones. I mean, we had Schlitz, Pabst, and I think Miller. I think Miller was like the 3rd, maybe even the 4th brewery in Milwaukee. It wasn't the top. It wasn't the only one or the biggest one, which it is now. And it's not even just Miller. It's Molson Coors, and they make Coors Light and all that other stuff. All that other junk now. But now we're starting to get back into the microbreweries are coming along, and I think it's kind of that return to that old. It's modern, but it's old school, because that's how it used to be. You had a small little brewery. You had a brewery in your house almost. I think like I was reading when I was reading about Martin Luther. It's like his wife, while he was doing all his theological stuff and doing his professor, being a professor and a pastor, and fighting the Reformation, his wife was at home raising the kids and expanding the house, which is the old Augustinian monastery there in Wittenberg. But setting up a brewery, purchasing land, he was doing all that stuff. It's crazy how much. It's like, man, everyone seemed to do more stuff back in the day at a certain point. Or maybe we read about the people that did all that stuff, but we still do. Let's see. Talk about, back to the flying thing, talk about that stuff with the pilot, all that kind of stuff, I know. Asked him if one should do a small job when in training. He just said no time for that, because you're learning and learning all day. That's exactly the problem. Yeah, it's like, okay, so you have a kid, if my wife, at that point, is out, has a job and is making enough that to cover our costs, and I would think we would probably, I don't know what we'd do, maybe move back in with my parents or something at lower cost, because right now, like, if my wife would get a job, I doubt she'd be able to get a job where she'd be able to cover our expenses. The mortgage, utilities, groceries, all that. It's tight as it is. And it's going to be nice when, she, in a couple of years here and next year, goes out and starts doing something, because then we'll have a little bit of extra income. Now, she doesn't need to go out and work right now. That's a great thing with the job I have, is that, if I can work between 48 and 60 hours, average, for the year, if I can average 54 hours a week on average, we're doing pretty good. Can set stuff aside for savings, for the emergency fund, that's good. But anything less than that, so flight school, taking on an $80,000 loan or something for flight school, and then having no income while raising a kid, having a house. I mean, we just wouldn't be able to have a house anymore. Sasha, the flight is going good. I'm seriously considering setting up doing a world tour of a different sort. I don't know if we'll fly in every country. Maybe we'll still do the fly in every country, but we'll a world tour flying in a smaller plane. I definitely don't know how that would work flying out in the Pacific. I guess we'll just have to find every single island. But that's the thing, in a smaller plane, you have a lot more options for airports as well, because you don't need the 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 foot runway. You only need 3,000 or 1,000 if anything to get away with. Yep, that's why Germany has paid parental leave. Yeah, we don't have that. Yeah, we don't. I think that a big problem in the United States is, especially now, we've gotten to such a point where, and I find myself in this too, where it's like, well, that's just the way things are. That's just the way things are. It's always been that way. Why should we change things? And I think there is a possibility. There is a way to, we can change things. We can figure out a different way to do things. Things have changed. The United States has been a country, since 1776 or 1787, depending on when you want to, officially go. But 1776, let's say, that's when we had our birthday and, we declared independence. We are a very different country. The way we do things, government-wise, social services-wise, is very different from what it was in 1776, 1787, the early 1800s, the late 1800s, the early 1900s. It's very different. And to act as if, we're completely undermining American values and stuff. It's like, well, in a lot of ways we aren't, and in a lot of ways we're kind of, we're kind of, yeah, it'd be nice to have a parental leave. I think that's just a big thing in the United States. So for so many people, it's like we just can't imagine it. It's like how would it work, right? And it's sort of almost the same thing. You see the pushback, and you see a lot of people kind of going the other, like with the work from home thing. Like, how is this going to work? With so many jobs, though, do you really need to work in an office? Especially a job where you're working in an office, right? My job, I can't work from home. I'm literally doing physical work. I'm literally moving physical things. The people working in the brewery on the lines, well, yeah, they have to be there. And probably some jobs at the brewery that do have offices, it's still a job that you want to do, right? But there are a lot of jobs, especially if you're doing things. I'm hoping this is still pulling stuff from the satellite imagery. It doesn't look like it. It's kind of, I don't know. I don't think we lost the connection or anything. But it's like a lot of, with the work from home, you hear people, it's like, we need to be working, people need to be in the office. Well, why, right? I suppose for some things that it makes it easier for collaboration on some things, but a lot of things, a lot of the time, how much time do you really need to spend at the office? And how much time is wasted in meetings and junk like that? I'm feeling like we've lost some data right now. I don't know if we're just in an area where it's a little sketchier. I'm really enjoying this flight. I kind of almost don't want to get in the CRJ and do a US tour flight next, because this is just so relaxing. Lots of sights to see as well. I mean, scenery-wise, we're not seeing a lot of cities or statues or stuff like that. We're having some issues with I don't know if the data dropped or what. Flight is going very well. Let's double check to see where we're going. So we're on our way to Takeoff, 61 miles out. That's crazy. We haven't even hit our first waypoint on this flight. This has all just been the departure. Estimated time though, 20 minutes. At least it says that on here. On my on our overlay, it's saying what, 46. So maybe that's 20. Or that's 20 minutes to Takeoff, I'm guessing. Well, I think the reason right-wing parties are winning, and I don't consider myself right-wing, but I do lean more right, more conservative, is because of the, I don't know how it is in Europe, but there is a definite lurch by the supposed left-wing party, which it isn't really a left-wing, but the Democrats in America are not a left-wing party. That's where the left-wing lives, though. They live within that party, but the establishment Democrat, like a Joe Biden, like the president Joe Biden, is not left. He is, he is left of center, I guess, or he plays the political game and fights for things that the left wants now. And it's usually those surface level things. It's not. What the left wants, what progressives want is very different from what the Democrats want, which is our left-wing party, right? And Democrats just want power. Political parties want power. The powerful people want power, and they just want more power. And the Democrats and the Republicans both want power in America, and, they both, at this point, it's almost... it's like, oh, well, the Republicans are the party of the rich. It's like the Democrats are the party of the rich, too. They just do a better job of appealing to they appeal to a higher, I guess maybe a higher educated working poor versus the Republicans who appeal to the slightly lower educated working poor, in a sense. They both are arguing that, we want to fix things for the poor, and they have different ways of doing that. Which way is better? You see there's this rapid push, and I think there's, again, the pushback in Europe as well. A lot of these countries that are voting right-wing is the climate change is probably a big one in Europe more so than here, but we have it here, where it's like, okay, we need to radically change how we do things. So we're gonna make it impossible for you to fill up your tank of gas, your car with a tank of gas. We're just gonna make it cost prohibitive. But we're not gonna provide an alternate option, which is a way bigger thing in America than probably even in Europe. In Europe, there are other options. You guys have better train systems and subway system, depending on the cities. Your cities are designed in certain ways that our cities aren't. Our cities are designed for cars. Our country has been so car-centric since the car came into thing. And then so it's like, oh, well, we need to combat climate change. We need to get off of oil and gas. So we're going to cut the line. We're going to cut that, or coal or natural gas, that stuff. We're going to cut that stuff, and we're going to go over to clean energy. But clean energy is still not cost effective. It's still not cheap enough for the common person to use. and we're going to take away the other alternative, and we're just going to drive up the prices of both. We're going to drive up the price of the dirty stuff, and now you're going to be your choice is now between dirty, expensive, or cheap, or not cheap, clean, expensive. Now I want clean energy as much as anyone, but I also have a budget, right? Now I walk to work every day. I don't drive to work anymore because I live literally right across the street from where I work now. Reason I bought this house is because it was really close to where I work. I want to walk to work because then I can say I'm saving money, and I'm not, the environmental concern, like whatever, that's secondary. I'm glad that it's positive. I'm going back to the more natural way of doing things, which is walking. I don't know what's going on with the scenery here. I guess I'm kind of ranting here. Yes, you also have many more parties in European politics than in America, and it's kind of the nature. To be honest, the first thing I want in America is for us to overhaul how we do elections. First of all, there's a lot of different ways you can go this. You can watch, obviously there's some great YouTube videos, like CGP Grey does some great videos on this. But the different ways we could do elections, where you could do, because in America it's first past the post. Whoever gets 50.1% of the vote, or the plurality of the vote, it doesn't even have to be 50.1% of the vote, it could be 37% of the vote. It's just got split so much. You go back, a great example of this is with the American Civil War. The 1860 election, presidential election, there were 4 candidates, which wasn't terribly uncommon earlier, and we've kind of whittled it down that it's like, no, there's 2 candidates, and then there's the others that are never going to have a chance. But in 1860, there were 4 candidates, and the vote got split 4 ways. And Lincoln ended up getting enough of the electoral vote because the North kind of coalesced around him. But if you look at the popular vote, he only got like 37% of the vote. And so you had a very split country, and obviously that led to it. That wasn't the only thing that led to a civil war, but that was a big factor in it. So we have first past the post, and it's, so you either win or you lose. It's a very binary dual thing. It lends itself to just developing into 2 parties, because you can't really have a third party because you're just splitting the vote then more, right? And so what we could do is you could still do first past the post, but you could do like preferential voting, or first past the post, or not do first past the post. Get first past the post, get rid of that. But you do preferential voting is one way you could do it, where you're still going to end up with one party in charge, and you're not going to have as the coalition governments like you have in Europe. You're still going to, but what you could have is, for example, let's say the president, right? We'll use the president as an example. You could have like 5, 6, 7, 20 parties running, or 20 candidates running. And then what you would do on your vote is you would vote for, okay, this is the person I want to vote for. So I'm going to vote for the person from the Christian Right Party, or I'm going to vote for the person from the Labor Party, or I'm going to vote for the person from the Blue Party, or from the whatever party it is, the Gamer Party, or party we want more beer party, or whatever it is. That's my first choice. And then my second choice is this, third choice. And then my last choice is the person I really, really don't want at all. And so then they count up all the first choices, and they go, okay, here's the person who got the most votes, here's the next person, and then they kind of cut off. They have the field, or they only take the top 5. And then they go to all the people's ballots who voted for the people who are no longer in it, and they go and they look at their second choice. And you just keep whittling down. It takes longer, but again, I'm sure you can set up an algorithm on a computer to do that. Of course, you need to have very secure computers, and that's a big thing. There's that, or again, we can do the proportional representation, like it happens in Parliament. It happens in a lot of European governments and governments around the world, where you have 20 different parties, and based on how many votes each party gets, that's how many seats they get within the ruling the government, which is another interesting way to do it. That would require a lot of change in America, and it would require us to kind of go, hey, you know what, maybe there's a better way to do this, and admit that, you know what, they did it one way. I'm, like, again, I'm conservative. I think, yeah, we need to look at what the founding fathers of America said, and, you know, their ideals, and, you know, what they put in the Constitution, and then the ways we can change that in the Constitution too. We can't just change it by going, well, you know, we're not going to do that anymore. No, we got to have a vote. We have to do it through the process. But they put that process in because, you know, James Madison, who was the primary writer of the Constitution, recognized that, hey, things are going to change. Better ideas are going to come along. Maybe, you know, things are going to, the system's going to break maybe even, because, you know, we have a broken system in America. We have this two-party system that doesn't really represent anyone anymore. And so 2020, the 2016 election is a great example of this. So many people voted for one or the other candidate, not because they liked that candidate, a lot of people voted for Hillary Clinton, not because they liked Hillary Clinton, but because they didn't want Donald Trump. And a lot of people voted for Donald Trump because they didn't want Hillary Clinton. They didn't particularly want Donald Trump, they just didn't want Hillary Clinton. That's how most elections are. I look at most elections, I'm like, I don't want that guy. I don't really want that guy either, but I really don't want that guy. And that's not a great way to, it's like, that's not a great thing either. Well, that's the question too. You know, it's like, do we just go straight democracy? I think the point of the I think there's still something to be said for representation. Because a straight democracy, there's a lot of danger in that. There's always been, I think people, they throw the word around democracy as if it's this great thing, which there, to a certain extent it is. But you need to have a Bill of Rights. You need to have certain things that kick into gear to stop the majority from just running ramshot. That's the problem with democracy. The point of having representation, the point of having, especially in America, the reason they developed the point of having representatives, first of all, was an issue of time, right? It'd be impossible to do a vote on everything, and it still is almost to do a vote on everything that it would have to be done direct to the people. People are just not informed enough. Being informed, educated, and then back then, obviously, the time to get the information from one point to another, right? But it was also meant to be a hedge against the uneducated masses, right? It'd be a hedge against a populist leader coming in and going, okay, I'm going to do this, and the majority rallies behind them and just gets rid of. I mean, even in Germany's history, right? It's like, once the minority loses their voice and there's no protections for the minority, and bad things happen. And that's the whole point of representation. It's supposed to work a certain way. It's never going to be perfect. There is no perfect. I think Winston Churchill said it. He probably said democracy too, even though he meant representative democracy, constitutional representative democracy, not just straight democracy. Because go back to the cradle of democracy in Greece, Athens. The way it worked there, democracy comes from the Greek for like broken pottery piece, and they literally voted on broken pottery pieces. That's why it's called democracy. And obviously, not everyone had a vote in ancient Athens. It was just the elite, really. But they would vote, and whatever the majority decided, that was the way it went. And you didn't have like rights that were set in stone that they couldn't violate. And so they like a famous one is they voted for Socrates to drink the hemlock and kill himself. You're done. Get out of here. We don't want to hear you anymore. You know, democracy could vote to take your bicycle and you have no say in it, right? Alright, I'm looking back at the earlier one, like right one. Right ones are mostly anti-refugees, anti-LGBTQ, and that stuff. Well, and again, and that's the big thing in America, is that we only have the two parties, and so it's like, oh, the Republicans are this, and it's like, well, they really aren't, because Republicans are anti-LGBT. It's like, no, because I know a lot of people who are Republicans, or they're starting to vote Republican now because of where the Democrats are going, so radical on a lot of things. They're going Republican because that's the other option. And these are people who are part of the LGBTQ community, which in itself is is almost too large of a party, because the LGBT and the Q, they don't all agree on everything either, because they have different things. I mean, well, I'm not going to try to go into it too much, but you know, but I think that's what it is. It's just there's so much stuff going on, and you're always going to have reactionary parties to people who want to do things way too radical on the other side. You know, I've said this so many times to people here in America. Why did Donald Trump get elected in 2016? Well, because the Democrats were going so far, we're getting into the silly territory with progressive stuff. There's progressivism, and then there's a lot of the stuff that's going on today, especially in the West, with the progressive stuff, with the LGBTQ community and stuff, where, I mean, and again, this is not everyone. This is why it's very hard when it's like, oh, you're in this group, you're in this group. It's like, well, not everyone in that group thinks that. And that's why, like, the LGBTQ thing always gets me, because there are a lot of people in the LGBTQ community that don't like some of the stuff that's going on with the T's, and some of the other communities are trying to attach themselves to that acronym now, right? Where, you know, when it comes to things like, you know, these drag shows that are going on at schools and at libraries, where it's like drag queen story hour, or, you know, and there are groups of people. It's like, we can all agree that maybe we don't like that, and then there's other people like, oh, how dare you? You don't agree with that? You must be far right. You must be alt-right. You must be, you know, whatever insult you can hurl at them to get them kicked out of polite society, basically, and othered. And it's ridiculous, because, like, well, no, most people, we actually are more in the center, and that's why, you know, in Europe, when you talk about a right-wing political party, they tend to be pretty right-wing. And same with the left wing. They are way more left wing than the Democrats in the United States. And the right wing in Europe is way right wing compared to the Republicans in the United States. Republicans and Democrats are you know, if you would put them in a European context, they would be like the centrist parties. They're in essence, they're really the pro-business party. Like, if you have a pro-business, you know, rich person parties, those are the Democrats and Republicans. We don't have, you know, we have elements within each party that wants to pull them further to the right or the left, but neither of those political parties on a major level are what they're made out to be in the media. Last election we had 54 parties. 47 took place, 40 as parties and 7 just as candidates for their area. But we have like the big 5 or 6. Yeah, you're always going to end up with larger parties, because, you know, so in the United States, I think if it was possible for everyone to actually get a seat at the table in an election, I think you could easily have, on a nationwide scale, we could easily have probably 50 political parties, 100 political parties, right? Now, you're going to end up with probably 5 or 6 bigger political parties, and then the rest of the 50 are going to be, you know, have a seat here or there. They're going to be much more topical too. Like, you go back in earlier American history, political parties were wrapped around a specific cause. Usually, they were wrapped around, okay, we're going to become a faction to defeat Andrew Jackson in the election, or we're going to become a faction to get rid of John Adams in the election. It was very targeted, or we want to do this one thing. Although as soon as that thing is accomplished, the party kind of started splintering off and doing its own things. I mean, we see this with the, so in the 1820s, the 1830s. I mean, the 1820s, the federal, the two big parties at the beginning kind of developed in America in basically the 1800 election, or no, the 1796 election, and then the 1800 again. It developed into the Federalists with Alexander Hamilton, John Adams. George Washington was kind of a Federalist, even though he claimed to be of no party. And then you had the Jeffersonian Republicans. And you developed in these two parties, two nasty, I mean, they were nasty to each other. We kind of, people in America are, oh, we're so nasty nowadays in politics. Like, no, we're not. Go look at your history, But developed these two parties. The Federalists wanted a stronger federal national government. The Republicans wanted to keep more, to protect the rights of the people in the state government. And eventually, the Republicans won out. The Jeffersonian Republicans won out. The Federalists kind of became a regional Northeast, Massachusetts, Maine, Rhode Island, New York kind of party. And the rest of the country was mostly a Republican stronghold. To the point where eventually Federalists couldn't win anything. John Quincy Adams, who was raised a Federalist, most of his life was a Federalist, became a Republican later in life. Served as Secretary of State to James Monroe, who was basically unanimously elected, was uncontested election in 1820. But what happened is, once you only had one party basically in charge, is that party started splitting off into its own faction, which eventually developed into two large factions. You had the Jacksonian Democrats, and then the people who were against Jackson, who adopted the name the Whigs, which came from England, really. The Whigs were the party that opposed the king. They were always the anti-king party, the whatever the king was standing for. They were the Whigs. And so in America, you then had the Democrats and the Whigs. Well, the Whigs were united basically by being against Jackson, being against Jackson's ideals and that stuff. And they were basically, and they brought in some of the Federalist ideas. It's kind of weird how that worked. But eventually, the political parties changed again based on an issue, which was slavery, the expansion of slavery. And the Whigs and Democrats were national parties, North and South parties. They encompassed both the North and the South. While the South, most people in the South were more pro-slavery. Most of the political people in the North were starting to become more anti-slavery, or at least anti-expansion of slavery into the new territories. And so Northern Whigs and Northern Democrats started working together more. Southern Whigs and Southern Democrats started working together more. And that's how you ended up with a four-way election in 1860 in some ways. But the Northern Whigs and Northern Democrats, they eventually combined, and in various states and various times. In Wisconsin, we think that we're the first one. In Ripon, Wisconsin was the first place to develop the Republican Party, the same party, the GOP in America now, the grand old party, in 1854. And that was a combination of people, basically northern political people who were kind of fighting against the southern slave power. But in the Midwest, you had very conservative Republicans and you had very liberal Republicans out in New York. Someone like William Seward was a liberal Democrat, and then in Ohio, Michigan, I think you had the Blairs were very conservative and would be more recognizable probably as a Republican today than someone like Lincoln or Seward, who would be more probably likely on the Democrats. Exactly. I mean, there's always going to be... It's very interesting, and that'd be something really cool to do YouTube videos on. Like I said, once I get to a point where I know how to do these map things better and stuff, I can put together some cool... I'd love to do stuff like that. I'm always jealous of people. I watch these videos, I'm like, man, how do they put in the time and the effort to do that? And I guess it's instead of sitting here and streaming, I should be doing that, or, you know, or once you get to a point where you have enough viewership, it actually pays to do it a little bit. You can afford to do it. I mean, that's the big thing too. It's like, it's so hard for me to be able to sit down because I only have a few hours every week. But that's something I kind of want to do, is get into that, because that'd be very interesting. I bet you there is a video on it. But yeah, how there's still, I mean, you see it in America. You can see distinct regions in America and how they vote. Certain areas of America vote certain ways and always have. They've always been blocks. And which named party they vote for has changed over the years, but they always change in a block, basically. Like the South, for 100 years, was solid Democrat. If you were a Republican, you could not get voted for in the Deep South. And then it kind of flipped. Suddenly became the Republicans, because the Democrats changed their policies and started becoming more northeastern liberal, more coastal liberal. And the Republicans started becoming more middle America conservative. More leaning into that, because again, both political parties used to have more conservative and liberal elements either way, and again, they were split more on certain topics, certain political issues, than they were on just straight up ideology, left-right ideology. And we've kind of gotten to that point now in America where now it's just, oh well, Democrats are the left, Republicans are the right, and it used to not be that way. It used to be it depended on the issue. And it seems that now all the issues just get identified as a left or right issue, even though in some cases they aren't, in a way. But yeah, the big thing in America that frustrates me is that there's this, and I think that why there's so much pushback, and pushback in Europe as well, is that the progressives have gone too far. That's just how it works. It's just how it works, and that's how it works in all politics. And that's what makes it actually work. You don't want to go too progressive too fast, because we're not ready for everything. You know, there are some pretty radical progressive things that people want to do that maybe we should do eventually, or maybe should never be done, right? I heard it from a guy he is a progressive, lifelong progressive, but he doesn't like the Democrats anymore in America. Doesn't like the blue team, as he calls them now, because they're not really Democrat. He doesn't really consider them Democrats. They've lost their way. And what he said is, like, he wants to be able to live in a world where he can, you know, his dream is to live in a world where he can be a conservative. Because what a conservative is someone who wants to maintain the gains of the liberals. That's what conservatives do. If you look in America, what a lot of conservatives in America are doing, they want to preserve things that have been fought and hard won by liberals. They want to preserve those freedoms. Now, you go further right, and some of those, they want to take some of those things away. But most conservatives want to conserve. Liberals or progressives, they want to keep progressing. But you can't keep progressing. You can't always be progressive. You know, at what point do you go, okay, we're progressing in the wrong direction? You can progress in the wrong direction. You can progress in, you know, ways you should be progressing. All right, we're talking too much about it, but yeah, I would love to see a lot more. I think there's a little bit where we have to be careful with the way we, you know, the redistribution of income. You got to be careful how you do that. And it always gets me sometimes, because some of these policies are like, oh, we're going after the super rich, but the policies that go after the super rich also hit the doing pretty well, but if you turn up the taxes on them at all, they're going to fail. Smaller businesses, smaller business owners, people who are like, yeah, I'm doing all right, I own my own business, but I'm right on the edge, right? You know, it's like with the $15 minimum wage in America, right? $15 isn't still, I mean, if you're trying to live on, even if we've got the minimum wage of $15, you still couldn't live on $15 $15 an hour in America, working 40 hours a week. You know, I saw a video, I think there's a viral TikTok video going around right now, a guy talking about, like, if you're making less than $25 in America, working 40 hours a week, you're gonna barely be able to make ends meet. And that's kind of scary for me, because I only make $27 an hour. Now, I work 20, you know, I'm planning on working an average of 14 hours of overtime over the course of the year. Because we're in the slow time of year right now, so I'm only working 48 hours a week. But in the busy time, I'm working 60. So average about 14 hours of overtime. Well, that's a good chunk of money right there, extra. So on average, I'm making probably more like $33 an hour average over every hour. If I'm getting those overtime hours, of course. But, you know, and you'll get arguments from both sides, of course. You know, but one thing that strikes me is that it's like, well, you have a lot of small businesses who are already on the margin. Like they have such tight margins. They're not making insane profits. These people are making enough to, you know, that makes it worthwhile for them to have a business. They can hire some people, and they have a nice little culture going. But if you raise the minimum wage and say, oh, you have to pay all your workers $15 an hour, well, suddenly they have to cut half their workers, or they have to shut down, right? So now suddenly you went from making some money at your job to, well, now I'm going to make $15. No, you're making nothing now. And so there's that argument, like, okay, what goes on? You know, how does this work? Of course, you get into the bigger things like a Molson Coors over here where I work. Now, I don't work for them, but even my company will probably could pay us all more. You know, and that's where you got to look, but the problem is usually by the time these laws or these bills get through the whole process, they've been so twisted that it ends up hurting. It ends up barely doing anything to the rich, but it does enough to piss them off that they might shut their factory down and move to China or wherever anyway. But it completely destroys the lower level people like us, or people who are, you know, small business owners, ends up destroying them. So, you know, not to mention all the radical, crazy social programs that some of the progressives. There are some things that we need in America that would be good, and I would be totally like, yeah, that'd be cool to have. There's other things where it's like, why are we, again, the kind of comes into the sexuality thing. That's, for me, it's like, why do we need to have so much sexual education in school in kindergarten? Like, that's a big one in America. I don't know how much you guys get over there in Germany, but like the big one is like Florida passing the anti-gay bill, or the don't say gay bill, which nowhere in it does it say that you can't say gay, you can't talk about homosexuality or whatever. It's a bill that it literally says that we're not going to, in Florida schools, we're not going to have sex education classes until after 4th grade. Which is not really radical, because when I was growing up, we started sex ed classes in 5th grade, 6th grade, you know, kind of that time where that starts becoming a thing to talk about. I mean, when you're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, I mean, why do we need to be talking about that so much? You know, and it's always like, oh, well, we want to normalize LGBTQ. It's like, okay, so just be normal about it. You know, I'm serious. Like, if a teacher, a cisgendered straight teacher came into my school when I was growing up and started talking about their sex lives, or talking about their family life and what they did on the weekend, and got very sexual in nature with it too, everyone would have been up in arms as well. It's not like, you know, So it's kind of weird. Anyway, I'm getting all over the place on that, and getting a little... I'm glad you're here, XLS Kiwi. There's no one else here. I don't know what's going on. Maybe people just don't like the little VFR planes. I'm starting to get burned out on the live stream. I like flying, but like no one's gonna actually show up. I know it's a terrible time though, but yeah, it's, you know, middle school. Yeah, you know, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. You know, that kind of range. We might have started 5th grade, probably 6th. I know for sure 6th. It's like age, like when, you know, what is it? 5th grade, we're probably 12, I think. No, not even. 10, 11? What is? Okay, so I was 13, going on 14, going in 8th grade. So I was 14 in 8th grade, 13, 7, 12, 11. So we're 11. I was 11 years old for most of the year in 5th grade. So I think 6th grade, we started 6th grade. We were 12 years old. That's, you know, especially girls are starting to change, but, you know, some guys are starting to, and it's like, okay, right at that point, that's when we start learning about, okay, you know what, you guys need to take a shower every day at home. We need to start wearing deodorant. We need to start, you know, girls need to start wearing, you know, some bras. You know, the rules start changing a little bit. We start learning that. And there's the whole, and I know there's some people out there that say, well, why do the rules need to change for girls and boys? They're the same thing. They're not the same. And yes, we do need to talk about this. Do we need to be talking about it with a 5-year-old? No, I think that should be left to the parents. I mean, I think my parents, I don't remember it. That's like my parents, it was never like hidden, like, oh, we're not, you know, I know some families are like that in America. And all over the world there are families like that where it's just like, it's completely not talked about at all. Which I do find strange, because it wasn't like we overtly talked about it, but it wasn't like a secret. It was like, okay, well, you know. But my parents weren't like sitting down with me with like a sex ed book when I was 5 years old, or 6 or 7 or 8. But it also wasn't like hidden and like this doesn't exist. It just, I don't know. It's weird. So it's hard for me to sometimes understand like how it. And it's also funny for me when people, you know, I'm a conservative Lutheran, you know, and I'm a member of one of the most conservative Lutheran churches within America. And most of the people I know, you know, and I was raised in public school though, but just the nature of where we live, you know, I couldn't go to a religious school, but most of the people I know who were raised in our Lutheran schools, it's like well-adjusted, know about the same stuff I learned in school. You know, so it's always funny when people come at me and they're like, "Oh, conservative Christians have no idea; they're so sheltered or anything." Well, yeah, I'm sure there are certain groups that are like that. You know, have no. But I'm all over the place on my rant here. I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's see. Since we have so many parties, it's sometimes hard to choose which one exactly because some are similar. Exactly, you get some of that where it's like, okay, which party? And I think having the ability to have the parties be more focused, you know, because you're able to have so many parties, you can have you're able to have you're able to focus more because you're able to have all these parties and they actually have a shot at something. They're able to get some representation versus here. So you're able to focus and then you can actually tell the difference between two parties. Now, some of them might be very close, but you can still find that difference. Whereas, you know, obviously you can see the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats in America. You can tell the difference between our right and left-wing parties. And the difference seems so vast also because that's what you focus on. You focus on the difference on this big issue, right? And you miss the fact that for the most part they're very the same. but you're only left with those two options, and you're like, okay, well, I don't like them for that topic, on that topic, but I don't like this party for that topic, but I only have two options, right? And so then it becomes a popularity contest, it becomes a personality contest, it becomes just energizing the base on whatever topic, and don't think about the other thing. I mean, Republicans and Democrats do a great job of that, right? You know, where Republicans tend to give, you know, the Democrats will say, oh, Republicans are always giving these big tax breaks to the rich people, which they do. But the Republicans are also able to go up and say, well, yeah, but we're going to, you know, fight for this traditional thing, while the left is going to fight to get rid of that, or they're going to be teaching your kids all this crazy stuff in school. And you're like, oh, yeah, you know, I want to vote for that, but I also want to vote for this that the Democrats are going for, like paid parental leave, right? I want that. That'd be cool to have. And the Republicans don't want that, but... yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's slightly different, and you guys still have more state churches, don't you, in a sort of way, or... I don't know. It's hard for me because in America, the way people look at churches in America, because oh wow, we're actually coming in pretty soon here, aren't we? Oh, we're still going to Nalma, right? We're 8,000 feet. Yeah, we're on the edge of Belize. We're going into the Caribbean. It looks like. Been looking kind of off in the other direction. Yeah, we're just about to come to our star, so hold that thought. Let me just see what's going on with our star. Alright, so now we need to be between 13,000 and 8,000 feet. We're already at 8,000. Our next waypoint on the star is going to be Cinza. We'll descend to 4,000. We're going to do that. What did we put for approach? I think I just did RNAV. I don't think I picked an approach. No, I didn't. We'll just do RNAV, right? Because we don't have ILS, probably. I don't think we do. RNAV runway 25. Look at that chart. Lock up. Just been blabbing away here. Bob Hotas. Ooh, you guys still have a church tax. Yeah. Well, that's kind of weird. Yeah, because... And it's even an understanding. It's different. The understanding of like the tithe and the tax. Like in my church, you know, and we believe this is how the Bible says, is that in the Old Testament, obviously you did have a tax. The Israelites had a tax. Like you had to give a certain amount, and they actually had much more than 10%. It wasn't 10%. You know, this tithe thing is a very Catholic, very modern invention, really. You know, it's like, oh well, the Bible, there's a 10%. It's like, no, it's, if you actually figure it out, the Israelites were given probably like 50% to the state, to the Levites, to the priesthood, to the social programs, stuff like that, that did exist. Well, and that's the issue, is that, yeah, it's like you make it a tax, you make it a law, right? In our church, it's like, no, it's like, it's an offering. You give a gift, you're giving back to God. It's not a requirement to be saved or to be, to be part of the family, to give a certain amount. Is a good rule of thumb, like, is a tithe, like a 10%, a good rule of thumb to use? Like, oh yeah, I should be giving 10% every week or whatever of my income. Yeah, that could be a good rule, but once you make it a law, like, oh, I didn't give 10%, now you're going to get in trouble, you're going to be kicked out, you're no longer saved, or whatever it is, now you're in trouble. Let's see, descend and maintain 3,000 feet, expect ILS X runway 7 approach. Okay. Let's... see how that works. I don't know if I have ILS though, but we don't have to use the ILS. Alright, we're gonna follow the in-game ATC, so we're gonna
MYLAND
have to
1010,
change this.
contact approach on 121.0. Good day.
We're gonna go into procedures. I think we just delete
121.0
arrival.
for MYLAND 1010.
Oh, procedure, select arrival.
Approach MYLAND 1010
Enter.
is at 9,000 feet, descending 3,000 feet.
MYLAND 1010, approach QNH 29.83.
Oh crap, how do I
Continue
clear
Bravo
this?
Zulu Echo as planned.
Well, if I knew how to clear things on this, that would help. How do I clear my flight plan, is the question. Procedure, maybe I have to change arrival. Arrival. How do I change it? Maybe we'll just go with what we have. What? Why would you do that? Learning a new plane, kind of, right?
MYLAND 1010, please expedite your descent 3,000 feet.
I know, but you guys gave me a whole different runway, which I don't have to follow, but why not? Enter. Okay, we want to go on NAMLA. Do NAMLA 1 Alpha. There we go, now we got the runway 7. Load, yes.
MYLAND 1010, please expedite your descent 3,000 feet.
The question is, how do I change it? Heal up. Okay. I see, I don't know how to change to... Like, I loaded it and it didn't change anything, so I don't know how to skip or... There we go. And now it should actually be on the flight plan. Alright, we'll do that. There's Belize City. Let's start descending to 3,000, I guess.
MYLAND 1010, please expedite your descent 3,000 feet.
I am. Am I not? I think I am. Church tax is 9% of your income tax. So, like, whatever you pay in income tax, then 9% of that is church tax, or it's 9% of your income. Yeah, well, that's a big thing. It's like we got rid of the state church, so you can't, you can't directly tax people to fund the church and to be a member and stuff. You know, the government isn't enforcing that. So it's like, now there are people that say we still have that fight where it's like, oh well, you're still giving money, you know, because we have like the school choice program. So we have our public schools, but we also have private schools in America. And private schools, there's various quality of private schools, but for the most part, private schools tend to be better schools. Obviously, you have the schools that are for rich kids. Those are going to be just because they got a lot of money. But you also have your religious institutions, like the school, you know, our religious schools. Our teachers get paid, you know, similar, sometimes less than public school teachers, actually. But our students come out of schools and they get accepted to college at a higher rate than public schools. Especially the school my mom works at, Wisconsin Lutheran High School here in Milwaukee. They have an extremely high rate, a higher rate, African American students that go there through the school choice program. And the way the school choice program works, well, through the school choice program, these kids, they go there and they graduate from high school and they go to college, which they're not doing when they go to public school at as high a rate. And the fight, though, is like, oh, well, why? And the school choice program, what it does is it gives money, it gives vouchers to the parents of these kids if you sign up for the school choice program, and you get to choose which school you want to send your kids to. And so it'll give you, if you want to not send your kid to a public school, the government will give you some money, and you can put that towards tuition at a private school. And a lot of people are taking advantage of that. They're going, you know what? I want to send my kid to a better school. I want my kid to have a good education and not be going to this dangerous public school that is just, you know, underfunded, and in some ways is underfunded, even though we've thrown a ton of funding at our schools, and it just never seems to be enough, right? So, but then there's the argument, it's like, oh well, you're giving money to a church, you're supporting a religion, you're not separating church and state. And it's like, it gets a little, I think the problem is the idea of this concept of the separation of church and state. People think it means that you can never say God in the public square, you can't put up a cross in the public square, or a nativity scene, or a Christmas tree, or, you know, or any money, no money can go and touch a church or a church school or anything from the government. It's like, that's not what it is. The separation of church and state is that you don't have a state church making laws and forcing people to be a member of the church and to follow certain specific laws that are tied in, right, with the church. Religious tests, like the concept of, you know, that one religion is preferred over every other one. Like, okay, this is the state religion, and then all the other ones, you can be a member of those, but you also have to support this one. The school choice thing is not specific to going to Christian church schools. It's for all private schools. You could be a Muslim private school, you could be a Jewish private school, you could be a Scientology private school. You just have to, you have to meet certain requirements, education requirements and certification requirements. And you have to follow the state curriculum. You have to teach certain stuff so that the kids are getting the education that you're replacing. You're replacing public school education. Well, you need to be bringing that in. I don't think we actually need to go on this long approach, to be honest. But there's that big fight, and I really don't need to be on this super long approach.
Descend and maintain 2,500 feet, MYLAND 1010.
MYLAND 1010 1010.
Oh, anyway.
9 miles southwest of Belize. Contact tower on 118.0 when inbound on the approach.
I don't know, maybe everyone must be working today.
Tower on 118.0
Had more
Myland
views. Just
1010.
is it just people are not interested
Tower
in
Myland 1010
smaller
9
planes?
miles southwest
I see people all the time
inbound
doing
ILS
VFR
X-ray
flights
runway
on
07
stream.
approach.
Just no interest today on the stream. Oh well.
UNH 29.84 wind 271 at 4. Cleared ILS X-ray
Yeah,
runway 07
this is.
approach.
We really don't need to do this approach. I don't know why.
Cleared ILS X-ray runway 07 approach, Myland 1010.
Yeah, our schools are free too. The public schools are free also. And they're definitely outdated. Education in general is outdated. Probably the way we do it is in many ways outdated. Some of the solutions are not much better though, going the opposite direction in many ways. I listened to the Dark Horse podcast. I don't know if you ever heard it, and it's a husband and wife, and they're both evolutionary biologists. They've just written a book also on stuff. I have to pick it up and read it, but
Myland 1010 wind
they
271 at 4.
they've basically been demonized as well because while they're progressive, they're also not Team Blue. They're not Team Democrat. They've been pushing back against various things in the last 2 years in response to the pandemic and some of the flimsy ways we've been tossing science around lately. So I'm not going to get into all that because I'll probably get demonetized or who knows. Yeah, well, and the question is, are online classes useful too? And I think there's a place for certain things to do online, but you also, again, we talk about it's like what is school meant for, right? Sometimes I think we don't understand exactly what school is meant for. It's like, oh, school's for teaching kids these subjects. It's like, is it? Or is it more for socializing and getting people used to being, collaborating and stuff? It's kind of there's a lot of, why are we stalling out here? Turn off the autopilot, let's come in manual. Where is the runway? Those are the runways over there, that's the river. There's the runway. Why? This is a very weird approach. You must turn right at the end. Weird, it must turn at the end. Wonder if this is just an approach for... Why are we on such a... Yeah, we're not at all following the approach. Why did it do that? Oh, I probably didn't actually get on the approach. Well, luckily we're in a small plane where we can do this kind of approach. Get our speed down though. We didn't actually go on the approach, didn't do that. I just went direct to that waypoint and then cut over. That's okay. Landing gear is out because we have a fixed gear, so that's nice. Every other time I've done last couple times I've flown in a smaller plane, I've forgotten to put out the gear on landing. I think on both of my last two Missouri River flights. All right. Pretty successful flight from Guatemala over to Belize. Looks like we'll just kind of park right here.
121.9er for MYLAND 1010.
Can we slow down? Kind of a sad looking airport. I could buy one to replace it, but I'm not gonna spend the money on an airport we're gonna be at for just a few minutes. Alright, let's bring down the RPM. And I think we go want to go this way. Fuel cutoff. Alright. Here we are in Belize. I'm guessing the other direction approach probably would have been better. Just seeing things. Well, maybe we can kind of talk about this American school system over the next flight. We'll see. Not too long of a flight though, but I think we can spend enough time talking about it. Alright, let's check out Volanta, just check out the flight. And then I'll show you the world map. There's Volanta. We're the first person on Volanta to arrive there, and we just unlocked Belize for the first time on Volanta. There's our flight. Yeah, this actually would have been... should have just stuck with the original approach, because that would have been a better approach to come right over the city. Dang it. Ah. Stupid me. Don't listen to ATC. Do it the way the plan is, because we would have been right over. That would have been a much better approach, flying over. Landing rate, negative 221.41. I didn't think it was that bad. Okay. Hour and a half for a flight time. 7 passengers, landing speed 75 knots, 257 miles. There we go. Let's put that away and bring up the world map. Alright, Guatemala over to Belize. Belize City, and next flight, next world tour flight, we're going to be going down to San Pedro Sula, Honduras. That will be on Saturday morning, I believe. There's our world map. Everywhere we've been so far. Yeah, it's weird. I'll have a landing where it feels nice and smooth, and then it'll come out much harder. And then I'll have a landing which was pretty hard, and it'll feel pretty soft. Alright, let's just look at this map again. I spent, I don't know how much time putting this together. But just practicing different things, like having those names kind of slide out there. That's pretty good, yeah? I'm getting better at learning some new stuff, learning more stuff as I go here in Adobe After Effects. Hopefully be able to do some even cooler stuff than that. Alright, so next flight here this morning, I'm gonna do... I think we'll do another flight this morning. I don't know. I'm trying to decide if I want to. Yeah, we'll do the next flight. We'll fly from, we're gonna do a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina up to Greensboro, North Carolina. American Airlines, or American Eagle, what is it? American Eagle, PSA Airlines, in the CRJ 700. So we'll go to the intermission screen, but I'll end this stream on YouTube like I usually do, just so we can have 2 separate streams for it. and hopefully people will jump in on this American flight. So I will see you over there in probably 10-15 minutes. We'll get that stream going, and we'll fly from Charlotte, North Carolina up to Greensboro, North Carolina. I'll see you in just a few minutes. I can get the music going first. Here we go.